that said, it is my pleasure to introduce Sean Johnstone here. Sean is coming online in just a moment. Sean is our principal DFIR consultant at Unit 42 with Palo Alto Networks. And Sean, you should have presenter mode. You should be able to turn on your camera and mic whenever you're ready, sir.
Thank you. Just a moment.
No, quite all right. No worries.
Let me get my screen up.
Okay. And while you're doing that, if there are questions that come in on the chat, I'll be asking Sean as we go through. So anyone who does have questions, please don't hesitate to hold back. These sessions are exactly for interactivity with all of you. Please let us know. Sean, the show is yours.
Thank you, Charles. How are we looking on presentation? Good?
Yep, looks great.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm from Unit 42. I'll jump in a little bit about myself, but today we're going to talk about general threat landscape as we see it in Unit 42 for the attacks that we observe in the wild and also some emerging attacks as well. My name is Sean Johnstone. I'm a principal consultant with Unit 42's incident response team. My role on a day-to-day basis focuses on leading investigations and managing response efforts in some of the most challenging cybersecurity incidents that you see sometimes publicly facing and some not so publicly facing. I'm excited to be your presenter here today, and I look forward to sharing some insights and recommendations with you. Case types that I enjoy working, cloud incidents, so AWS, Azure, GCP, of course, ransomware cases, general network intrusions, web application compromises, and insider threats from time to time. I have about 9 years in the industry, 4 years here at Palo Alto, Unit 42. I came by the way of acquisition of Crypsis, was with a specialized DFIR consulting group. We were acquired September of 2020, so I've been with Palo since. Previous experience as a security engineer in my prior life, deploying SIMs and also doing some tier 3 SOC response for them as well as for MSSP. Also, I have red team experience, which I think lends a helping hand when you're on the DFIR side, on the blue team side, so you could think like an attacker and have that adversarial mindset. Also have a master's in cybersecurity from Fordham University in New York City. Today, we'll start with a quick intro of what Unit 2 is, who we are, what we do. Then I'll walk you through the current threat landscape and what we're observing in the wild today. After that, we'll dive into some of the key events and trends where I'll cover emerging technology such as AI, which is a hot topic right now. And then we'll wrap up with how to stay connected with Unit 42 through our various blogs and even our podcast, which is available on most streaming services. Okay, so what is Unit 42? So this section is going to cover a few things here. What our services are and the threat intelligence we provide to the industry and our customers. We're going to go through some stats on incident response engagements, intelligence relationships, and number of researchers. And we're also going to talk a bit about how the products and services combine with third-party data and intel to give you that holistic view of what's going on in your environment and what other like companies and our customers are seeing as well in their environment. It's going to be a high-level intro to the team and its capabilities. Our goal for Unit 42 is to build a holistic understanding of threats in the digital world today and use our insights from our incidents and our products to turn into actionable intelligence that we could provide and enhance our products with and help our customers out at the end of the day. We're customer-centric and customer-focused. So Unit 42, we have 4 main, groups. So we combine our threat intelligence and our expert services to deliver a full comprehensive cybersecurity protection. We have over 500 researchers that handle over, and also incident responders that handle over 1,000 cases a year. We take those findings again and turn it into actionable intelligence for our clients. So we have a variety of data, including Palo Alto network product, data feeds, third-party feeds we subscribe to, and global partnerships as well. On the services side, we offer a few things. So we have proactive services. So your auditing, your pen testing, your assessments, your cloud security assessments, your tabletop exercises. We have managed detection and response. So that will be plugging into your Cortex XDR reviewing alerts and acting as an extension of your SOC. We have managed threat hunting team, which is another niche within Cortex XDR, and they're actively threat hunting in your environment using things like XQL using Cortex. And then we have the incident response side, which is where I sit on, which focuses on recovering clients and helping our clients investigate and recover from current security incidents. Today, we field one of the largest and most experienced threat intelligence teams in the world. Again, we have over 500 researchers specializing anywhere from threat hunting, reverse engineering, malware analysis, threat modeling, and we have the recognition to stand behind that. We have awards for zero-day discoveries from Microsoft. In 2021 alone, we identified 16 new vulnerabilities that were patched by Microsoft, Adobe, Apple. So we have a lot of experience with those researchers who are helping secure not only our products, but secure, our competitors or other companies' products out there in the world. On average, we publish 3 new pieces of research weekly, and we share critical insights with the community through our blog and through our social media platforms as well. In terms of telemetry, we ingest 500 billion data points daily from over 70,000 Palo Alto products globally, covering endpoints, networks, and cloud environments. So that's a lot of data that we're seeing, and a lot of that we're able to action both from the investigation perspective, and then also pushing out to our products, pushing out to our customers, and even doing some things like proactive notification. Hey, we see this in XYZ customer's environment. Obviously, keep that all confidential, but maybe you should check this out, in your environment, because we're seeing that as well. From there, we also have, like I said, mentioned the acquisition of Crypsis. So we've added incident responders on the front line, like myself, who does over thousands of cases a year. So there, we're also getting, we're working, the industry-wide 0 days and all the emerging vulnerabilities that are out there. We're on the front lines for that, and that's across all different industry verticals, and not only just Palo proper customers, but any customer that comes to us and needs help. And finally, we have our intelligence partnerships, and we also use open source data. We draw from open source data such as Whois, dark web sources. We actually scrape the dark web. We have a dark web service that we recently stood up, and we subscribe to over 75 third-party feeds. Also, we're a founding member of Cyber Threat Alliance, so we have another additional 6 million observables that we analyze each month through that alliance, and we collaborate with international law enforcement, government agencies, and always continuously helping out the industry and expanding our intelligence reach where we can. Together, combining all of these resources gives us unparalleled understanding of the global threat landscape, which enables us to help better protect our customers and better protect the industry as a whole. So now what truly sets Unit 42 is this feedback loop you see here on this slide. On the left, you have the Palo Alto network products. You have next generation firewalls, Prisma, Cortex. All that telemetry is being ingested into our databases, our knowledge store. On the other side, we're using our Unit 42 services to also enrich that data, add to that data, because it might not be from a Palo customer, but we're seeing it from other industry customers that we're able to then add that data back in. So all our IOCs, CTPs we're seeing on our incidents, that's all getting ingested back into our complete knowledge store, and that's going to only strengthen the protections in the next generation firewalls, also in our EDR tool, Cortex, and Prisma Cloud as well. With that, let's move into the current threat landscape, what we're observing in the wild from an incident response perspective. These are some just highlights and headlines that we put together, just showing, and you see all this year, September, May, August. So the threat actors are not stopping. It's actually increasing. We see ransomware demands. You see on the top left one, Tech Radar from September. Ransomware demands are increasing, averaging over 1.5 million this year. Maybe threat actors are fighting inflation like us general people are in the economy as well. On the right side, you see also they're not just targeting traditional on-prem networks; they're targeting cloud environments, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But this was actually an article of a blog that I co-authored with some of my colleagues, and it was a group that was specifically targeting cloud misconfigurations. So there's a common misconception that if you're moving from on-prem to the cloud, it's safer, it's more secure. It's not your responsibility; it's the cloud provider's responsibility. But they have things like shared responsibility model that you have to adhere to. So cloud is an extremely important vector that you have to protect, and I think it's only going to increase, as time goes on, as more organizations are moving up to the cloud. And then lastly, the last one I'll point out here is FBI warns hackers' use of AI, that AI is growing. It's pretty obvious that we're going to see an increase with generative AI, LLMs, and we'll dive into that a little bit later as well. But it's even on the radar of the FBI. So we know that's a fact now. It's going to close the barriers of entry, in my opinion, to be able to write some sophisticated malware, or be able to write something like a sophisticated phishing email, which typically used to be, back in the day, grammatically incorrect and easy to point out. Here's the key problems in the current threat landscape and what we're seeing, and we'll dive into that as we go on here. But firstly, the lines are blurring between cyber criminals and advanced persistent threat groups. Cyber criminals, general cyber criminals who are just in it for the economic gain, they're increasingly using APT-style tactics to carry out their attacks, which makes it difficult to determine the motive of the attacker and for organizations to defend against it. Secondly, incidents have a broader impact beyond just the target organization. Attacks are now not only affecting the target company, but also its partners, supply chain. You see a lot of supply chain hacks happen. SolarWinds was one of the recently huge ones a couple of years ago, and also targeting their downstream customers. So, for instance, a managed service provider is a very juicy target for threat actors, because then they're able to compromise the downstream, the downstream clients of that MSP. So that's important as well. We're seeing new levels of extortion as well, where these partners, vendors, customers, and staff, even family members, are being harassed by threat actors to pay the ransom. So we're seeing some brazen activity from these threat actors, where they'll go after really anyone to get what they want. Also, threat actors are gaining traditional IT administration skills. They're employing IT administrators to help carve through these networks quicker than we've ever seen before. They're infiltrating, networks of secondary and tertiary victims to extract data. So then, again, they're not just stopping at that initial foothold. They're looking to dig more and more to really cause that financial and reputational harm throughout the ecosystem. Finally, there's a great tenacity and automation being used by cyber criminals. Attackers are using sophisticated tools and processes to evade detection for longer periods of time and to infiltrate networks to greater depths. You see a lot of novel web shells out there, but also they're leveraging things like living off the land binaries, your traditional PowerShell, your PS exec. They're using to kind of blend into the environment, and they're actually getting a lay of the land. They're understanding what is typically used in this environment, so we can kind of blend in and not stick out. Doesn't always have to be their run-of-the-mill malware. You don't always see Mimikatz anymore. Those things are pretty commonly found and known by a lot of EDR tools and even just traditional antivirus tools. Using these living off these LLL binaries, they're making the threat actors more efficient, faster, more capable of fighting back against defenders as well. We could see that in a lot of our attacks, due to the pace of the attacks, specifically in cloud attacks, they're using automation a lot, playbooks and repeatable operations. We know there's a lot of playbooks that leaked from ransomware operators a year or so ago. So we know that is true, and we're seeing, due to how quick these actions are taken in an environment, that there is some level of automation there. So we have three major just themes here: speed, scale, and sophistication. Again, global businesses, they're experiencing attacks at scale at a level of sophistication and pace that we have not seen before in the previous 5 or so years. They don't really care how big your company is or what industry they're in. Again, they're motivated by financial gains. No one really is immune. There's no company that's immune. So if you haven't been impacted yet, chances are that, not saying it would be successful, but you should always, just keep your eyes open and make sure you're doing what you can to protect your organization. There's new victims every single day, every hour around the world. Our inbound channel is always flooding up with new customers that are experiencing a tough day with the breach. And generally, right now, the cost of cybercrime is over $8 trillion and still rising. These are some insights from our Unit 42 incident response report. And basically, it boils down to speed matters when it comes to responding, mitigating, eradicating threat actors. In our IR cases from Unit 42, attackers are exfiltrating data way faster than ever before. In 2023, the median time between compromise and exfiltration was 2 days. Compare that to 2021, that was 9 days. So it's getting a lot quicker. So you have to, really be able to respond as quick as possible, respond to those alerts, action those alerts, and make sure you have the right team with the right experience in place to handle that. In about 45% of our cases this year, attackers exfiltrated in less than a day after compromise. This means that almost half the time organizations must respond within hours to stop them. So that's an extremely powerful data point there. I've worked incidents where exfiltration started, I kid you not, maybe 5 to 10 minutes after initial access. This was a cloud matter, but it just goes to show how they're operating in an automated fashion and what they're really looking for as well. In our another insight, software vulnerabilities still matter. So just about 40% of exploiting internet-facing vulnerabilities was led to initial access. So you see a lot of CVEs pop up these days, VPN CVEs, firewall CVEs. A famous one, a couple of years ago was proxy shell and exchange CVE. So really anything internet facing is going to be scanned, probed by web crawlers on a 24/7 basis. So attack surface management, understanding what's exposed is super important in this day and age. Back before this year, it was really a lot of stolen leaked credentials and phishing. That still happens, but now we're seeing a lot, just more mass scanning, max exploitation. You're seeing shortly after patches go out for these CVEs, the threat actors, the community security researchers are reversing those patches, creating a proof of concept and putting out on GitHub. So really anyone who has some ability on a keyboard it makes it trivial to exploit a company these days. So that's just something to keep, to be aware of. And lastly here, threat actors are increasingly sophisticated, like we touched on before. They're more organized. They have special teams that hand off different parts of the attack. You have your initial access group. You have your group that's hand on keyboard doing discovery and recon. And then you have your last group that is doing, whether it's exfiltration or whether it's encryption, but carrying out those final late stages of the attack. Also, they're more knowledgeable than ever. You could tell a lot of them likely had some professional IT experience and background. They're able they're Active Directory admins, professionals. They have a lot of experience in cloud environments, security tools. We see a lot of threat actors now getting into your environment, using your EDR against you and turning your security tools against you because they're extremely powerful. If you're able to remote into an EDR tool, that's essentially like a backdoor on a system. So it's important to make sure those systems are safeguarded, MFA, and you're auditing who has access. A group that comes to mind that is extremely professional and experienced at this is a group called Scattered Spider, aka Muddled Libra. They are really increasingly brazen. They like to do social engineering via phishing. So they'll call a help desk posed to be an employee, get your two-factor reset, and then once they get into the Okta environment or whatever IDP they're targeting, they're really able to, they're off to the races. They're able to really enumerate an environment and act and operationalize their attack quicker than I've ever seen before. Going into ransomware, first half of 2024, no surprise here. We see Lockbit as the top group, and then followed by Play, Akira, Ransom Hub, Hundreds International. Lockbit has been one of the major players in ransomware as a service groups for the last few years now, and there's just over 400 known incidents since the first half of 2024. These aren't numbers on the second half just yet. Again, we see a few dominant groups that are responsible for the majority of ransomware activities. New threats have emerged, which makes monitoring and naming consistency an effective way for tracking these groups. You see Lockbit go from Lockbit 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. Of course, the US remains as a primary target for ransomware attacks. We have some of the most successful companies in the world. So it's no surprise that we're just a lucrative target for these threat actors. Year over year, since 2023 to 2024, there's been a 4.3% increase in ransomware activity from the previous year. You see a lot of sanctions by the government. You see a lot of takedowns of known ransomware groups, but they keep popping up, and it's even more prevalent than ever. They're also adopting, defenses to evolve their ransomware tactics. They're using different code to subvert any detections. They're also developing Linux-based encryptors, EXI encryptors, which we see on a lot of incidents these days as well. So the threat is still large for ransomware. And if you run a traditional Active Directory Microsoft environment, definitely something that you should be keeping your eye on. This is just a quick figure showing the comparison on a month-by-month basis from leaked sites from 2023 to 2024. You see an increase in almost every month, downtick in June. And I took a peek at numbers from so far the second half of the year. We'll get those numbers out once this year is over, but it has increased as well since then. It's likely that the June decreased so much since there was some decrease in activity in Lockbit sites. I know they had a disruption, but they're still operational as a group. So that's likely the reason for this drop here. As far as industries, here are the top industries that we've seen targeted so far in 2024. Manufacturing leading it, followed by healthcare, technology, construction, and pro legal services. This is based on our own investigations as well as monitoring leak sites. Keep in mind, though, that many attacks go unreported. If a ransomware is paid, the threat actors are then essentially agreeing to not publicly shaming the company through their leak site. So this data is likely higher than you're seeing here. These industries have remained pretty much consistent year over year for the last few years. You can see that there's attacks across multiple verticals here in the top 5 threat actors. As we see it in Unit 42, they're really just chasing the money. Again, they're motivated by money and financial gain. I don't think there's anything that you could say, oh, this is why manufacturing is targeted heavily. I think they're just going for the lowest hanging. They're going for whoever they're able to attack, and they're going to try to attack everyone. They're going to keep pressuring industries where they've had success in the past. So it's really all comes down to opportunistic, incidents and attacks for these threat actors. Again, here's the nation. Here's how the nations rank in 2024 for ransomware. United States leading it by large, followed by Canada, United Kingdom. And this is what we see from a Unit 42 perspective, and also monitoring leak sites as well. let's dive a little bit into actually talk about Lockbit ransomware group themselves. So the key takeaways here, Lockbit is a ransomware as a service group. They work with affiliates or initial access brokers who get access to the environment. They use Lockbit as a ransomware, and then the whatever demand, whatever payment is then paid to that group, they split between the two. I believe it's typically 80% to the initial access broker and 20% is kept by Lockbit. They're basically an organization, a criminal enterprise. They run it as such as well. Again, that affiliate program, super successful. They let everyone else do the initial access. They provide the ransomware, the executable, the malware, and then they just take a percentage of whatever is recovered. They do a lot of double and triple extortion tactics. And when I say that, I mean they encrypt your environment. That's a single tactic. They then exfil data and then say that they're going to leak this data if you don't pay. And then they also employ triple extortion, where they'll harass you. They'll DDoS your network to apply pressure on your company to make sure you get to paid. Currently, the latest version is Lockbit 3. It began in 2022. There was some disruption by US and UK law enforcement in 2024. However, you still see they are still active. As far as statistics from a Unit 42 perspective, there were 1,185 victims that were on the leak site from Lockbit 3.0, which was these stats were from June 2022 through the end of 2023. And again, that number is likely higher because this is what was leaked out on the website. So there's a lot of other companies that just never made it to the leak site. We've worked dozens of IR matters with Lockbit. Definitely the more prolific ransomware group that we've worked incidents for. We've also done negotiations with the threat actor involving on many of these engagements. Sometimes we only come in to do negotiations depending on what the client would like. So some of the demands reach as high as $10 million, which is crazy to think about. But in our negotiations, through our negotiations, typically we fall on average about $680,000 payment per day. So obviously we'd rather not pay them, but there's times where companies have their backups deleted, have their backups encrypted, and just to get back to business, they need that decryptor. So those are some of the reasons why we will help companies pay these threat actors. Here's some of their methods. They have multiple ransomware variants. We talked about Lockbit 1.0 through 3.0, and there's some whispers about 4.0. Each variant is an evolution of the last in their technical capabilities. It offers faster encryption speeds. So they're iterating on their software. They're a company. They're making it faster, stronger, and they're using that against these vulnerable companies. They also make some acquisitions of different ransomware source code. So they're buying their competitors, which is very similar to how the traditional tech industry works too. Compared to other ransomware groups, Lockbit has a very unique affiliate program. They aggressively market on underground forums. They offer direct ransomware payments to affiliates before taking the cut, which incentivizes affiliates to work with them. They also engage in some publicity stunts, such as offering bounties for information of their competitors as a way to discourage and harass their competition. They also have an aggressive approach with victims, small, medium-sized businesses to large enterprises. They don't really care how big or small your business is. They don't care if you're a doctor's office with 10 systems or an enterprise with thousands of systems. Again, they're just there to make money.
Hey, Sean, we got a question that just came in that I was actually literally wondering the exact same thing. Adrian is asking, has Unit 42 ever negotiated a payment to Lockbit or similar that does not result in the decryptor being provided despite payment being made? So does anyone negate on the deal?
That's a great question. So there, to answer that, there has been some issues with the decryptor. If it's not working as intended, but they work with us and our malware team to make sure that decryptor is working as intended. And here's why they're not going to just take your money and then disappear, because at the end of the day, they're a business, as crazy as that sounds. And if word gets out from Unit 42 or CrowdStrike or Mandiant saying, hey, Lockbit, they're taking ransom payment, but they're not fulfilling their promises of a decryptor, no one will do business with them. They'll never get paid ever again. So at the end of the day, they need to make that money. So they're gonna follow through on giving us the decryptor what we need. But that's a great question. Other smaller groups, I'd say that's happened before. I don't have direct experience with that self, but lesser known ransomware groups, spider, small splinter cell ransomware groups, that's definitely a risk. And what we like to do is provide something what's called a proof of life. So we'll hand them 3 or 4 encrypted files, and we make sure they can hand it back to us decrypted, so we know they have a working decryptor before there's any payment made as well.
So interestingly, it's like there almost is honor among thieves in a way here.
Absolutely. Because if word gets out by some of the major players, they're not going to be able to make money. No one's going to pay them.
That's just fascinating. The person was just simply saying there are reports of the decryption taking longer than a restore would have taken.
Yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into that, but it's not fun. Let's put it that way. If you could restore from backups, definitely have your backups offline in nature, segmented from your primary networks. When you go and decrypt through each system, it takes a bit for sure.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, people are just curious if are the negotiations handled by Unit 42 directly or by a government entity like the FBI?
No, FBI won't do any negotiations. That's handled by Unit 42 directly. It's actually a service we provide, or some of the other payment settlers that provide these negotiations, some of our peers in the industry as well. But FBI won't touch that.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Thank you. Great questions, everyone. Here's just a quick snapshot, and I want to be cognizant of time here. Here's a quick snapshot of the leak site for Lockbit. As you can see, there's some postings of November 1st. So they are still active. Here's a quick rundown on some recommendations and just best practices. This goes without, this should go without being said, but patch your vulnerabilities rapidly. Understand your assets, have an inventory, understand your publicly facing assets first and foremost, because that's what's going to be scanned all day. So stay abreast of your technology that you're using and understand, what may be exposed so you can patch that. Use strong passwords, of course, so you could not get brute forced. Use phishing resistant MFA. Use MFA at all. You see a lot of environments, they get in and you could just RDP to any server. There's no MFA on that server. So definitely something I'd recommend. Obviously use phishing resistance. We see in business email compromises. When you're using non-phishing resistance, there's an attack called the adversary in the middle attack, where they're able to take your MFA token, session token, and still log in your account, even if you have MFA on. Phishing resistant MFA would prevent that. Review and secure your ESXi servers. That's a huge target. They lock you out of those servers. They encrypt those servers and make it almost impossible to get back in. So definitely, I would say go to the ESXi hardening guides. Make sure that's all good, because you can't run EDR on the ESXi hypervisor. Obviously, do your due diligence, conduct your regularly security audits, and understand where your data lives, understand where the sensitive data lives, understand the crown jewels of your company, so you could better gate them from the rest of your environment. Definitely recommend employee training still. I know some people are on the fence about that, but routine, training, even like lunch and learns with your staff, I definitely recommend. Show them, do some hands-on stuff, show them some phishing emails, show them what could happen with phishing emails, not just traditional phishing training, but definitely recommend going above and beyond and showing them some hands-on stuff. Monitor public and underground dark web forums. You see a lot of clients, they get their data leaked to the dark web, and that's the tipping point for their investigation. They had no clue a threat actor was in. They got in, they exfilled data. Now they're posting this data for sale on the dark web. So definitely keep the eye on the dark web and subscribe to services that help monitor the dark web. Obviously, use your XDR, EDR. Make sure you have the policies configured properly. Make sure it's deployed as close as to 100% on your network as possible. I've been in environments where it was only 50% coverage, and that's where we ran into issues because the threat actors got there as well. Ensure your incident response playbook accounts for threat actor, negotiations. Understand how your incident response playbook works. Understand who the key stakeholders in responding to an incident are. Do you have a retainer with, a Unit 42, a CrowdStrike, a Mandiant out there? Definitely recommend, having all that ironed out before you run into your first incident. Go through tabletop exercises, gameplay an incident, understand how the information is going to flow, because when an incident happens, there's a fog of war and things get a bit hectic, and it's hard to do that live while on an incident rather than preparing for it as well.
Great. Yeah. We had a couple of questions come up here. Cheryl's wondering, what is the one or two most common issues that allow attacks to happen? I'm presuming phishing, for example, is going to be one of the big ones. Social networking.
Yep. So Cheryl, to answer that, phishing as initial access vector, and then I would say two, or not above phishing, but it's publicly facing workloads or servers that are vulnerable. So not patching systems that are exposed to the internet. That's a very, very popular way in. So if you have a VPN or a firewall out there that is vulnerable and it's able to have, let's say, remote code execution, the threat actors can exploit that, upload a web shell, and then move laterally to your network from there, and then get onto your internal network. Those CVEs are extremely important.
Yeah. And then, if I apologize if I'm butchering your name, Jonas is wondering, where's the best place to monitor dark web? Is that just having Unit 42 do that for you? Is there ways that people can do that for themselves?
Yeah, I would use a professional company to help you monitor the dark web. They subscribe to many forums on the dark web. They build personas on the dark web. They're able to kind of hide in the forums to be able to grab that data that when it's posted. So that there's a lot that goes on in Telegram. There's a lot of Telegram channels where they post, threat actors post details of attacks, upcoming CVEs. So it's kind of hard to wrangle on your own. I definitely recommend like a company or a service to do that.